Let's go live now to our political editor, Andrew Clennell. Andrew has just touched down here in Brisbane along with the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's campaign arriving from Adelaide today, Andrew, and that issue that I raised with Minister Birmingham, the Solomons and this deal with China, has been looming large for the PM as well today.
Yeah, it's not great timing for the PM on this, is it? However, you never know. Those on the Liberal side might think talking about this subject is not a bad thing. It reminds me of the 2001 campaign when in the last few days of that, children overboard emerged again as an issue. That brought the campaign back to the asylum seeker issue, and as a result, there was a focus on an issue that the government wanted there to be focused on. So Scott Morrison, he's facing some hard questions here on how this happened, but at the same time, he's able to keep the issue on China, the khaki election, and he won't mind that. It is puzzling, though, Kieran, that Seselja, someone so junior, was sent to try and stop this thing last week instead of Marise Payne, who was campaigning. I initially had a tip and her office confirmed she was at a fundraiser. They then telephoned me after the press conference to say she was at a business dinner at PwC, she was meeting ethnic groups, she was campaigning instead of going to the Solomons. So I asked the PM about this, and he was saying they don't want a cabinet minister stomping around. I found this a bit puzzling. A junior minister's more softly, and that was what was required. Well, clearly didn't stop the agreement. Anyway, here's me asking the Prime Minister about it.
On the very day that Seselja was travelling to the Solomon Islands, Marise Payne was hosting a private fundraiser at PwC Barangaroo. Is that really the best use of the Foreign Minister at that time, as opposed to going to the Solomons?
The right response was to ensure that the Minister for the Pacific, we were very aware of where that agreement was up to, as were all other Pacific leaders. It was very important that we communicated very clearly to the Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, Manasseh Sogavare, what the Australian government's position was. And to do that at that level made very clear that Australia was not looking to go and stamp around, that we were going to deal constructively and respectfully. That is
Seselja doesn't. I mean, how does that even work?
Well, the Foreign Minister is a different level to the Minister for Pacific. One is in Cabinet, one is not. You calibrate your diplomacy to deal with sensitive issues.
Well, Julie Bishop was this government's long-time Foreign Minister, and she told Channel 10 this morning that essentially Marise Payne should be on the first plane over there.
So I would be greatly concerned, and I believe our Foreign Minister should be on the next plane to Solomon Islands to talk with the government to see what's actually been agreed and how that impacts on the security in the region more broadly, and also on Australia's security interests.
So I just think there's a real point here in saying the government hasn't done enough on this front, Kieran. They deserve some criticism over it.
My approach is not to lock myself away in rooms before having these things. You know, it's look, I think tonight is a really good opportunity for people to evaluate the choice. I've said right from the outset of this campaign, this election is about a choice. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about our plans. I'm going to be talking about what we've been doing. I'm very optimistic about the future for Australia.
All right, well, we're going to get to that in a minute, Kieran, but that's essentially the PM having a crack at Albo, even before this People's Forum gets underway, saying he's been locking himself in a room, as the Australian reported this morning, rehearsing, making sure he doesn't stuff up again like he did over the national unemployment rate in Tasmania last week. How are you feeling leading up to the event, Kieran?
Andrew, everything is set here at the Gabba for tonight, the Sky News Courier Mail People's Forum. And you can see behind me there's a space for 100 undecided voters. This is where it's going to happen. These voters deciding what they want to ask the leaders. And we don't vet the questions. It's up to them, the voters, to decide what they want to raise with the leaders. So that's the beauty of this format, Andrew. They can't predict what the media pack or what you and I might caucus together and come up with, because it's not us who are driving this tonight. I might be moderating, but really the tone of the debate, where it heads in many respects, is up to the 100 undecided voters, which makes it tricky to navigate. The one thing I would say, Andrew, off the back of that preparation from Anthony Albanese, it appears to have been showing up in his day-to-day news conferences, the fact that he has been drilling into the numbers and wargaming and having mock debates. Andrew, it's showing up in his performance more broadly.
Why didn't he do it before day one? Is the question you have to ask, isn't it? But, Kieran, I think it's hard to remember a more critical people's forum, looking at the polls where they are, Australians not giving the vote of confidence to either side, both sides hovering between 34 and 36 in every poll you see and in the internal research from what I've heard. And, Albanese was ahead before his gaffe. He dropped 3 or 4 points, but very few of those points have gone to Morrison. So they both need to make an impression. Both these guys don't like each other. Will it get nasty? Well, Scott Morrison was indicating today he wanted to rise above that, but we'll see. And the time when that occurs, as you know, as we saw in the South Australian Forum, you'll get those audience questions, but then you'll throw to the other side, what's your reaction to what he just said? And that's where they'll really get stuck into each other tonight.
Exactly. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing you shortly, Andrew. We'll let you get on your way here to the Gabba.